The following is my conversation with Stefan Reisinger. Stefan is the managing director of FAIRNAMIC GmbH, which is the company that runs the EUROBIKE fair. I reached out to Stefan because I wanted to give the listeners a better look inside EUROBIKE. EUROBIKE is the largest bicycle-specific trade show in the world, and I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to kind of dive in. Working in the industry, I've always had lots of questions about the event that they moved from. For many years, it was in Friedrichshafen in the south of Germany, and then it moved to Frankfurt 2 years ago. So we dive into the reasoning behind that. We dive into, why the trade show is important, the evolution of the trade show, sort of their goals and what they're trying to provide, and how to kind of best leverage the show for brands and for visitors. So I thought this was a great opportunity to kind of see behind the curtain of EUROBIKE. This is the Business of Cycling podcast. Hi, Stefan. Thank you for coming on today. It's great to have you on. Stefan Reisinger, you are the managing director of FAIRNAMIC GmbH. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about FAIRNAMIC GmbH, what you guys do there?
Yeah, sure. First, thanks, Wyatt, for having me today. I'm happy to join your podcast. Yes, FAIRNAMIC, that's a quite new enterprise. We founded that company 2.5 years ago, and it's a joint venture company between the two trade show companies, Messe Friedrichshafen, the former organizer of EUROBIKE, and Messe Frankfurt, the location we are today with our EUROBIKE show. And the reason for that joint venture was that we, from Messe Friedrichshafen side, were looking for a new venue and a new location for the show for the future. And on the other hand side, Messe Frankfurt was very interested to become part of that show, not only hosting the show in its location in Frankfurt, but really become a partner in that event. And that was the reason why we founded this joint venture company, FAIRNAMIC. That was during the COVID times when our business was very, very difficult, and we kind of used the opportunity to set up the things completely new. And since then, we've run the show now 2 times in Frankfurt.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad we get to talk today because I've worked in cycling for, over almost 15 years now. And EUROBIKE is this sort of entity that is really on everybody's radar, rightly so. And there are details about EUROBIKE that, that just kind of not everybody gets to know kind of the intimate details of it. So I think today can be a really cool opportunity that I'll kind of play the voice of the people to kind of try and understand some of the things that are happening. And I think ideally this conversation could give people an opportunity to understand how best to experience the show. And I think that's what I'm going to try and do today. I know we had talked about some topics, sort of where you guys are going strategically with the event. But I guess I want to start with the question that everybody has is, why did you guys move from Friedrichshafen to Frankfurt? Because I honestly, Friedrichshafen, was kind of close to my heart. I had been to a lot of shows there. I was a bit smaller, a bit easier to navigate just because of the size. So can you give us some insight on how that came about?
Yeah, sure. I'm really happy to give you some insights and also, of course, all the ones listening to the podcast later on outside. The show has been here in Friedrichshafen for nearly 30 years, and it's been really its home base for sure. And Friedrichshafen is a wonderful place. I still live and work here. And so we know all the advantages of that location, but it also has for sure some disadvantages, and that is for sure accessibility, which is not an easy one for an international trade show, and
Sure.
EUROBIKE is an international trade show. And of course, also kind of accommodation, hotels are kind of limited in the area. And for many years when the show was growing, we had also to deal with lots of complaints from industry sides about the location and about the difficulties to get here and to find accommodation here. And we always had in mind that if the time is right, then we should make use of the opportunity to move that show to a different location, which is much easier to access. And from our side, the timing was right when the COVID pandemic hit the trade show industry all over the world. So our business was flat anyway. So there was very little we could do at that moment. The only thing we were able to do is, of course, to try to set up or make a new setup for the show for the future, and wait for the best and hope that we can get back to business. And that's what's the time when we made the decision to move the show to Frankfurt. And honestly, over the years, it has also been kind of outgrowing the environment here. So it was too big for Friedrichshafen. It was too big for the showground. We had not the opportunity to do what we thought would be important for the show. And that is exactly what we now achieved in Frankfurt. So we are really in the heart of Europe. We are in a big city. We have a big area around, a lot of people living there. It's a huge fairground. The fairground is in the heart of the city. It's easy accessible. There's enough hotels. Traveling from worldwide is a no-brainer to Frankfurt, and that's the reason why we went there from an organization standpoint. And the other part of the story is that the cycling business has, of course, transformed a lot. So when we started with EUROBIKE, we were kind of a mountain bike event. It was a pure sports show. But over the last 10, 15 years, it developed much more into a mobility show. And that is also that's kind of the other story we have to tell, of course, that we wanted to go with that show in a location somewhere in the city, in the heart of the city, where the bicycle is really making a difference in the future. That is the other point.
I see that, those are really valid. I guess Friedrichshafen, for as quaint as it was for industry folks, it does have a ceiling in terms of how much, how accessible it is. So that makes perfect sense. It's bigger. I mean, I've heard lots and lots of feedback regarding, just having to recalibrate the amount of time it takes to get from booth to booth, which I'm sure it wouldn't be the first time you've heard that. So, but I'm glad that you guys sort of had this trajectory, or having this trajectory to, increase the impact of the event. So I guess my next question would be then around the fact that this is you say mobility platform. Can you just help us understand? Because you use the term mobility. I come from cycling. It sounds like a strategic way to position the event as kind of a wider net. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I would say, of course, the sports bikes and the performance biking is still a very important part of EUROBIKE. So that never did go away. But with the rise of e-bikes and pedelecs in Europe over the last 10, 20 years.
What is pedelecs? What does that mean?
Pedelecs is pedal assisted bicycle. Yeah? So a motor assisted bicycle, which is now the biggest part of the market today. So in Germany last year, there were more pedelecs sold than regular bikes, and of course for a much higher price. So that is kind of what changed over the last decade, and that is of course also the driver for the whole industry, and also was our main motivation to move the show to a big city location, because today many people use bicycles much more as a means of transportation for commuting, getting things done, using a cargo bike instead of a second car. So that is kind of the trend we see in Europe, or have seen in Europe over the last years, and that is exactly what is our main purpose, also to develop the show further into the future.
So yeah, and I've heard people say that the enthusiast bunch, which I'll be honest, the people that I work with specifically, for the most part, are enthusiast slash, I guess, more sport, like you say, sport biking. But I see how the market needs to be served in a wider way. So you're using the term mobility to encompass cargo bikes, pedal assisted bikes, as
Yes.
well as the enthusiast. Uh,
Yes, and also the category up to the car. So I would say everything which is kind of pedal assisted and electric driven, and it could also be a three or four wheeler. So all the category until we reach a smaller car. That is the interesting part and interesting sector for us, because we are convinced that there will be a lot of innovation in the next coming years. So that
does
is
this
really a segment to watch.
does this mean there might be a brand rename happening in the future?
Well, nothing we are working on right now, but for I would say the mid and long term, why not? That could be something to discuss in the future. Yes.
Right. So I guess I want to get into if I can just get because I see you've been with Friedrichshafen, you were with Messe Friedrichshafen previously, and now with FAIRNAMIC. Um, you saw Eurobike, you worked on the Eurobike project since 2003, is that correct?
Yeah. 2004. I started with Messe Friedrichshafen in 2003, and I was promoted to the project manager position then in 2004. Yeah. So more than 20 years. Yeah.
So can you just give us overview of the because one thing that I see is there was, initially trade shows they have ebbs and flows where they become more relevant, less relevant, and it sounds like there was a bit of an exodus of certain of the biggest brands in the mid 2010s
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and of the enthusiast side of things. And I think I just was hoping you would speak on that a bit, just because it is sort of an elephant in the room and people are curious. That I presume that happened because of brands wanting to have direct control over their, I guess, their annual meetings. Like they felt like they could handle that on their own.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't necessarily, that's not a requirement for you guys. It is maybe a bit sexier to have the biggest brands, but what does that mean for you guys? And how do the big brands kind of impact your business, I guess, is the question.
Yeah. Um, in general, I agree, Wyatt. And over the years, of course, we have seen brands coming and going. And when I started, we were really on the rise with Eurobike. So we got a lot of bookings and brands applying for the show in the early 2000 years. And then after a while, also we saw some of the big guys dropping out, and mainly I think they dropped out because they wanted to do their sales events on their own, or organize kind of own dealer shows, what was very popular for a while. And I think, of course, also is quite understandable for a big brand with a huge dealer base, that they might not be capable to really serve all their dealers within 3 or 4 trade show days. So that I think is one of the reasons why some of the brands dropped out over the years. And on the other hand side, we also saw that a lot of new companies or new brands entered the market, especially also, of course, in the mobility segment, in the e or pedelec segment. That was always in the last 10, 15 years a big driver for us. And with the limitations in Friedrichshafen, we were not able to kind of have everything. So at the time when some of the big players dropped out, we had the opportunity to take some newcomers on board. And in the end, the fairground was again fully booked. Also, maybe one of the top 3 or 5 brands was not on board anymore. And of course, that changed over the years a little bit. And one thing we'd like to provide for the future is, of course, a platform which is relevant for all brands, for all players. So that's our main target. And I would love to see also the big guys exhibiting at Eurobike, maybe not with the attention that they are doing their dealer meetings at the show, but much more to approach, for example, end consumers, or also to be present to engage with new employees or other communication ideas or topics they have in mind. So of course, our target is always to have as many of the relevant players on board as possible. And of course, at some points we were doing a bit better, and at other points we were maybe doing it not as good. But right now, I would say since we moved to Frankfurt, the trend is quite positive. We've seen quite a lot of companies also coming back to the show, and hopefully, of course, this journey continues in a positive way in the future.
Well, with that said, what maybe I'm going to give you an opportunity to do the elevator pitch, right? What is, how is Eurobike beneficial for a brand?
Well, from my point of view, of course, the media and the media reach we provide, of course, also the fact that you are seen to be part of the bike business, the bike community. At Eurobike, it is also a lot about lobbyism and also political work, what the industry does jointly together to provide conditions for cycling and in the end to grow the cake and sell more bikes. So I think there is quite a lot of reasons to attend a show like Eurobike. It's not only about selling bikes to dealers. That was kind of the conception in the past when this was kind of the old-fashioned trade show. So that was the only moment you would be able to sell a bike to a dealer was at the trade show. But these times are past long time ago.
So it's more around networking.
Yes.
It's around trends. So to
Yes.
stay updated with trends. I see that Eurobike is actively working with industry organizations in Germany as well as
Yes, and also
European.
Europe. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we do. And from my point of view, it's not necessary to book a booth or do a stand with 600 square meters and show every single bike you have in range. Maybe doing a highlight presentation and really show a lot. Some of the bikes which are new or marking a new trend. That would be the way I would present my brand if I would be deciding going to the show or not.
Sure. And so I guess let's step back a moment. I see that, your strategic goal is to establish Eurobike as a relevant mobility platform, which, is your overarching goal as the managing director and as an organization.
I would always add bike and mobility platform because biking and cycling is still kind of the core and the main purpose of the show. Also, me, myself, and also my team, we are all also bike enthusiasts. So biking is always the core and trying, of course, to make it a bigger, a bigger event, taking these interesting markets additionally on board is our main target.
And in terms of growth, do you have some top line numbers? Just I didn't ask you this and so I might be putting you on a bit, on the hot seat here. But I guess do you have any top line numbers on the overall trend since you guys moved to Frankfurt? How things are going?
Yeah, of course, and things are going very positive. So last year, and that is also the plan for this coming show, we will cover roughly 150,000 square meter cross space in Frankfurt. That is roughly 50% more than we had here in Friedrichshafen available when we used all the space we had here on site. So the show has kind of grown 50 since it moved from Friedrichshafen to Frankfurt. And last year we had roughly 1,900 companies attending from all over the world, and that is also kind of the benchmark for this year.
And are you guys at this, like, what is happening right now? I know we're about 2 months out and a little under 2 months out. What is happening right now?
We are pretty well booked, so I'm very pleased about the outcome. I learned that stability is the new growth. That's what we say in the bike biz now for the last couple of months because the business environment was very challenging and still is. So I think we cannot expect that we will see a huge growth for the coming edition, but we expect that the show will be on the same level, the same size as the last edition was. And we are, of course, pretty far advanced with our preparations. So I would say bookings are now 95% done, and we are kind of the final loop of preparations for the show.
Sure. Well, I always wondered, like, in a year, you have a year to prepare for these, and what is that like? Like, what is the most intense part of planning an event like this? Like, is it the day of or during, or is it before? What's that like?
Well, I think that depends a little bit on the position in the company. I would say in my position, it is quite stable over the year. So I'm busy with working on the show whole year. For my team, it is of course more an up and down, and I would say the half year before the show starts is of course more intense than the half year after the show. And of course then in the team we also have different positions, people who take care of our exhibitor bookings or people who work on the side program, so that makes also a bit of a difference. But in the end the story is quite simple. So after the show is before the show, and when EUROBIKE closes down, then we have already a lot of feedback and insights, and then we start to prepare for the next edition.
So immediately after the show, you're collecting the insights to improve the show.
Yes, that's what we do. And of course, my team, they after the show, they have all their holiday time still, and they have a lot of over hours from the show. So that means for sure we have then a certain time, maybe 4 or 6 weeks, where it is not moving very far. But I would say the latest beginning of September, we are full on track and start preparing for the coming year.
And I see that in terms of, we had mentioned the large brands that are coming or that maybe had left. It looks like you said Giant is coming back this year.
Yeah, that's a big one. We are also happy that Pon Group is coming back with its brand Kalkov to the show, and we were able to keep all the big relevant players from last year, which of course wasn't also that easy because of the overall business situation. So we are quite happy and quite pleased for the coming edition. Yes.
And you mentioned that the test track is going to be double the length. I'm thinking back to
Yeah.
Friedrichshafen, man, that it was small compared
Yeah.
to what you have
Eh,
at.
And it was so busy last year, so we had a lot of people riding bikes, especially also during the festival days. So we had to work on an extension. And for this year, for the first time, we will kind of have a test track going also out of the fairground, so to the city center, which I think it will also be a great benefit for all attendees riding bikes, not only on the fairground but also having the opportunity to really going for a longer ride to the city.
So in terms of, the event, you've got the test track, you've got, obviously you can go and talk to the producers, get an idea of what's happening there. Maybe we can just dive into a little bit about the other tracks and programs and topics that people can jump into, just to give everyone, this will kind of be everybody's, I don't know how to say, like a companion episode for the show. So anybody that wants to kind of understand, how best to maybe enjoy the show, we can, hopefully this will help them. So you mentioned that you've got like the outside of the actual event itself, you've got the lectures, you've got networking events, and then you've got some tours. So in terms of lectures and panels, I know that there's a lot of different themes that people can jump into. Did you want to speak about the lecture, kind of your goal, like how you guys position the lectures and the panels as kind of as an experience in general? What are some of the ways that you benchmark yourselves for that?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I'm happy to dive a little bit into that. Maybe not too deep, because there is a lot of events and details, of course, and everything in detail is on our website. But in general, I think important is to understand that the show contains two parts. One is the business part, is the first 3 days, and the second part is the festival days on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And during the business days, we of course have tons of panels and meetings going on all around retail, transformation, the business, lobbyism, political footprint, sustainability, innovation, and stuff. So that are the main topics for the business days. And of course, for the end consumer days, it's all about experience bikes, reaching out to new target groups, getting people to ride bikes. A lot of shows and events going on, social rides, and of course, there's every night there is party, and also having a good time around the show and during the days in Frankfurt. That is kind of the program in a very rough summary, I would say.
And so as far as networking goes, there'll be opportunities for people to attend events, work to have kind of open discussions around the.
Yeah, we do have two kind of C-level events, networking events. One is on the pre-show day. It's called EUROBIKE Leaders Night, where we have kind of the owners and the CEOs of our biggest customers coming together. Also, of course, the decision makers in the associations from all over Europe are coming to that night. That is on the pre-show day on site, and we have a second networking event, high-ranking networking event, which is called Pink Thursday, which takes place in the Massif Central, which is one of the I would say well-known bike hotspots in Frankfurt, where the bike community comes together, and there we have also people from the bike biz, but also from outside the bike biz to share insights and know-how, and of course also enjoying a great time together. And in I would say different areas, for example, in retail or in sustainability, we have of course a lot of events and also networking events going on, but it would be too much to explain it here.
No, sure.
In that
But
podcast.
I guess if people are interested in partaking in these, where can they get more information about these, just to kind of understand more of how everything works? Would that just be on the website?
Yes, sure. So eurobike.com, there you will find all the information.
Okay, cool. So I guess in terms of goals for this, you mentioned, like, what are some of the top kind of high level goals, 2 or 3, that you're hoping to achieve this year?
Yeah, of course, I think the most important is to really bring the global bike and light electric mobility industry together in one place. So that is our main goal, and that is, I think, also the major role Eurobike has had in the past. So really to get all the relevant people to come to that event and to kind of join forces and to talk and to network. So that's kind of the industry part, the most important part of the show conception. And on the other hand side, of course, we want to see as many trade visitors coming from all over the world to the show. So roughly, we hope that we can get 35 to 40,000 people coming during the 3 trade show days to Frankfurt. And our goal is to reach out to another 35,000 end consumers on the public weekend. And so in the end, we hope that we will see many people coming to attend the show from trade, but also consumers. Make, of course, a huge media impact, and also kind of politicians become more aware of cycling and the needs for better infrastructure. These are the kind of main targets, main topics for the coming show.
Sure. So yeah, and I think that being in Frankfurt now, if I understand correctly, really was able for you guys to really kind of take it up another
Yes.
notch, as
Yes.
compared both for the trade side as well as the consumer side.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it really fully paid off for us. When we started to think about this idea to move the show, that was not an easy one for us, because it was, of course, so long here in Friedrichshafen, and it was so strongly related to our location here. So that nobody was sure that this move is going to be successful to Frankfurt. But now, after 2 years, I can say, yes, it was the right decision, the best thing we could have made.
Awesome. Well, it's been awesome talking to you today, Stefan, and I appreciate you taking some time to talk with me. I think people will really appreciate being able to hear kind of your point of view, because, like I said, Eurobike has always kind of been this monolith that, we're all beholden to. So it's great to hear your point of view. And so if people want to reach out to you and get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, sure. Of course, on LinkedIn, and also if you browse the website, you will find the contact details from me and also my team. So please feel free to reach out. And thank you, Wyatt. The pleasure was all on my side. Thanks for talking and giving me the opportunity to talk here. And I'm looking forward to see you and also all the hearers and listeners out there at EUROBIKE in Frankfurt. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Glad to have you.